Welcome everyone. In this video, I'm going to make a small little bot using this toy boat engine I saved from a previous project. Last week's video was a huge one, so this week I'm scaling things back and building something a bit smaller and a bit simpler. I still think it turned out pretty cool, so stick around and see how I did it. The first thing I do is send the engine to the mechanic to get it looked at on the inside, and would you look at that? It's full of gears and plastic bits. So I'm going to take those out because I don't really need those and they'll just get in the way. Maybe I can use them in a future project, so I'll save those. I'll put the engine halves back together, re-add the screw just for some extra stability, and then I will cut off the end because I didn't want that piece anyways. And because I chopped off that bottom part of plastic, there are a couple holes that I have to fill, and I'm using a 2-part epoxy putty to do that. This is EP200 or EP400 depending on what size you get, and I just fill up those holes and the screw bit as well. Normally this is a pretty easy process, but today the clay just was not working well with me. It wasn't sticking where I wanted it to stick, so I ended up just using a googly eye for the front hole. Moving on to making the legs, a large part of said legs will be made using some of these styrene strips as well as some of these extra bits. Using some various styrene pieces, I'm building what will become the upper leg. Now they probably sell styrene that comes in this size already, but my local hobby shop doesn't carry it and I wanted to use what I already had around the shop. Using some flush cut snips, I get the shape into the basic shape that I'm looking for. And then I can refine that shape using some sanding sticks. And I'm going for this upper leg shape. You know, everyone knows the upper leg shape. You've got your circles and your squares and your triangles and your upper leg shapes. So the upper leg is complete, and now I can start working on the lower leg. It's also made out of styrene and it's glued into this squarish, rectangularish block. And then it is sanded into a circular, rod-like block. So now the upper and the lower leg are complete. I just have to connect them together in this configuration here. And to do that, I will be using a little hinge piece from a Gundam accessory kit, I believe, that moves, which I always like. So using a drill bit, I do what drill bits do, and I drilled a hole in the bottom of the upper leg, and that will attach to the hinge. And then to attach to the other side of the hinge, I cut off the little ball joint, drill a smaller hole, and then using a pin, I can attach the lower leg. I'm going to cut out a piece of this plastic connector, and this will act as part of the hip joint on the upper leg, and another googly eye for flavor. So I've got the hip joint and the knee joint. Now I just need the ankle joint, and for that I'll be using this wooden bead that I drilled a couple of small holes in the side of so that I can add a pin, and this will attach the foot to the bottom of the leg. I'll also cover up the original bead holes with some little plastic half beads. I can then attach the ankle bead to the bottom of the leg and start working on building out the foot, or the feet. If you've watched some of the other videos on my channel before, you may have heard me mention that I don't like making robot feet. I would rather steal them from another robot or toy before making them. But for this one, because it does not have hands or arms, I did think it deserved some actual custom feet for its troubles. At the end of the day, these feet actually weren't too hard to make, so I'm feeling better about feet, I guess. They attach to the main leg like this. The legs need somewhere to attach to on the main body, so I'm going to use a broken penny here, and I will cut it up into a few pieces and attach them to the main body for the legs to attach to. Broken pens and mechanical pencils are great things to keep if you're thinking about getting into trash bashing like this. The nice thing about these legs fitting in how they do is that it stands up on its own, so I don't have to build a base, which is nice. I do, however, want to give my robot a face, or an eyeball at least, so I'm going to use this Gundam part here, and look how nicely that fits in here. Like, it's perfectly built to fit into this part. I'm going to get rid of that little bit in the middle there and replace it with this bit here, which looks a bit more eyeball-ish to me. Now I just need to find a lens, and I was going to use a googly eye, but this one's a bit too large, and when I was test fitting it, I noticed that this googly eye is one of those rare double-colored lenses. I mean, this thing's got to be worth like a bajillion dollars. This is like a PSA 10 Pokemon Charmander. Anyways, I'm actually going to use this lens because it fits perfectly in the back of my new eye hole. Then, as I'm assembling everything, I will back it with some sort of colored paper or styrene, and so you'll see the color through the unpainted lens. You can see the concept here with this white styrene, but eventually I'll paint it red. As everyone knows, no outfit is complete without accessories, and so now it is time to accessorize. These guys just snap together, pretty easy, and then they'll be attached to this bracket that will be attached to the main body. Like I talked about before, this bot doesn't have arms or hands, and so these will sort of take the place of that, and I can adjust them to whatever angle I want. I drill a small hole just under the face area, and they'll attach in like that, and I do make sure that I leave enough clearance for the eyeball. To further accessorize my bot here, I'm going to add some antennas as well as some tanks in the back. I'm still not sure exactly what these tanks are for, but I'm going to add them. For the antennas, I'm going to add them to this plate of styrene that I built, and I drilled a couple of holes in them, and then I will glue that whole plate right on top of the robot. And the antennas are made from various size metal tubes, some are copper and some are brass. For the tanks in the back, I will be using a technique that I've used quite a few times in the past. I'm using these pipettes as the tanks. Right now they are a bit too squishy, so what I will do is I will mix up a batch of plaster of Paris and inject them into each pipette using a needle and syringe. So if you are a bit squeamish about needles, you may want to look away for the next minute or so. I use plaster of Paris because it is very cheap and dries pretty quick, especially in small batches like this. I'm using a blunt fill needle, so it's actually not very sharp, and in the actual field of science and medical stuff, it's used in a similar-ish way. Okay, the needle has been put away, so you can look back if you're a bit needle phobic. It's not going to come out again, I promise. I'm going to use this aluminum tube as the brackets to hold the tanks to the main body, and I'll need to drill out a couple of holes to hold said aluminum tubing. Seeing this footage now, it does not look very safe. I promise I am in full control though, and I did not get hurt. Using my jeweler's saw, I cut up the aluminum tube into a couple of brackets. I think these are like ½ inch maybe long. The length doesn't really matter a whole lot since most of it will be inside the main body, and just a little bit sticks out like this. Okay, we're still accessorizing, and now we're just doing the greebles, which are like small accessories. And I just cut off a few from some old plane models and different bits that I've had in the old bits box for a while now. And I just start adding them to the side until I'm happy. I only add a few since this is a pretty small bot. They don't need a whole lot. This is a piece of guitar wire. It makes pretty good scale tubing or wiring, and I use it quite frequently. Speaking of tubing, I'm going to use this styrene rod here and heat it up with my heat gun to bend it into a couple of tubes that will attach the main body to the blaster sprayer things at the front. And once again, I'll be using aluminum brackets to attach the tube to the main body and to the blasters, sprayers, whatever they are. All the pieces get added to some painting sticks and then sent outside to get a coat of flat black primer and then flat white. As with the bot, we're going to keep the color scheme pretty simple. This beige and earth will be the main two colors, the orange will be for the tanks on the back, and the white will be for a few small detail parts. For the white, I'm starting by spraying a few pieces of masking tape, and I'll explain what happens to those a bit later. Now moving on to the lighter colors, the beiges first. I'm doing most of the main body and legs, and then the rest of this painting is pretty self-explanatory. As I was putting this bot together, it kind of reminded me of a cricket or a grasshopper, I think mostly because of the legs, and the color is similar to some of the California grasshoppers that I'm familiar with. That made me think that this bot has something to do with agriculture, especially with the tanks on the back. Maybe it works with a pesticide or an herbicide or some type of fertilizer or like a watering system. That's kind of just the basic idea I was thinking, but I would love to hear what you all think this bot's job or purpose is. I always love reading your comments down in the comment section, and you always come up with some really cool ideas. I'd also like to take this time to thank my wonderful patrons over on my Patreon. Thank you all so much for your support. It really does mean a lot to me. If you'd like to join these wonderful people, I have links at the end of this video on my page and in the description to my Patreon. And if you join the Core Builders, you'll get a shout out in every video like you see here, as well as some behind the scenes photos that no one else gets to see. And if you are liking what you're seeing, please do consider liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing, all that fun stuff that helps the YouTube algorithm pick up this video and show it off more. I try to put out a new video every Saturday, so stick around if you'd like to see those, and I've got plenty in the archive, so check those out if you have some time and want to peruse. Remember those strips of masking tape that I painted white earlier? Well, this is how I'm using them. I'm using them sort of as like a pinstriping on the tanks in the back, just to add a bit of extra detail. And I'm just realizing now that these kind of look like clownfish. I want this weathering done in like 20 minutes, so I'm going to use a new product here from AK. It's basically like a contrast paint, and I'm going to use it as a weathering paint. I add a bit to a little plastic container, dilute it with water, and then a small splash of isopropyl alcohol, and then I'll just use this as a basic wash to cover up every piece of this robot. This is the quick and dirty, no pun intended, way of weathering. That's just basically covering everything in wash and then dabbing away some of the extra. And this is like the quickest way to add weathering to any project. I'll be using this Tamiya Weathering Master kit just to add another layer of grime, and I'm not even going to use a brush this time. I'm just going to use my fingers, and I'll get a little bit of the brown and a little bit of the rust, and then I will just rub it into every part of the robot once again. That's all I'm doing for the weathering. Like I said, very quick and simple. Once everything is dry, I do a coat of clear coat just to protect everything, and then I can start to assemble. I didn't really like this hole just chilling on the top of his head, so I made up a little plastic bead, painted it, and weathered it, and then just added it real quick. And added a bit of extra tape to the legs just to get a nice snug fit. I apply those, and with that, this project is pretty much complete. Hey, thanks for sticking around till the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. I know that voiceover was a bit unscripted sounding, and that's because it was. I built, filmed, painted, edited, and did the voiceover for this video all in like 2 days, 3 days. So I'm a bit rushed on time this week. Next week, I am also going to take the week off because I'm a bit burnt out, and it's my birthday, so I'm taking the week off. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, put it down in the comment section and I will try to get back to you. I do read every single comment and I try to respond if I can. Thank you again so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I will see you in the next video.